بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه في كل لحظة أبدا عدد نعم الله وأفضاله. اللهم آتنا من لدنك رحمة وعلمنا من لدنك علما. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نوينا تعلم وتعني وتذكر وتذكير ونفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم، ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير، ابتغاء وجه الله مرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني مشرب الصافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إن نسألك العلم لدني مشرب الصافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني ومشرب الصافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم ألهمنا علما نفقه به أوامرك ونواهيك، وارزقنا فهما نعرف به كيف نناجيك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك فهم النبيين وحفظ المرسلين وإلهام الملائكة المقربين في عافية يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أغننا بالعلم وزينا بالحلم وأكرمنا بتقوى وجملنا بالعافية يا أرحم الراحمين. آمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم إنا نستودعك ما قرأناه وما نقرأه في هذا المجلس وما قبله وما بعده، فاحفظه علينا حتى ترده إلينا وقت احتياجنا إليه يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أكرمنا بنور الفهم وأخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم، وافتح لنا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا حكمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. آمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم يا من مقاليد الأمور كلها بيده وإليه يرجع الأمر كله، يا فتاح يا عليم، يا فتاح يا عليم، يا فتاح يا عليم، افتح علينا فتحا قريبا. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي، وسدد لساني واهد قلبي، وافعل كذلك بأحبابي أبدا، وارزقنا كمال فتوح العارفين والفقه في الدين، مع كمال الإخلاص والصدق واليقين والعافية والغنى والنصر والحفظ والنفع والانتفاع وخيرات الدارين وعلوم الأولين والآخرين. آمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم، والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. Okay, Alhamdulillah, 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 Alhamdulillah. We're continuing with our risalah, right, inshallah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Min kitab Risalatul Jami'ah للإمام الحبيب أحمد بن زين الحبشي ونفعنا الله به وبعلومه في الدارين. Right, from the book Risalatul Jami'ah, a treatise for the masses, inshallah, by the great scholar Ahmad bin Zain al-Habshi. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala benefit us by him and by his knowledge in both abodes. Right, where he has said about zakat. Right, so last week we finished about fasting, correct? And we went into zakat, correct? Now, and I think how far did we go into zakat? Now, I will start from the beginning of zakat. Then, as mentioned, for zakat, we, as you know, in our own context, right, we will be focusing. I will go through the different types of zakat, right, but we will be going through what is in detail, what is more relevant to us, you know, in Singapore, right? So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The zakat of assets, Babu zakat, wa amma zakah, وهي رابع أركان الإسلام. فيجب على المسلم معرفة أنواع الأموال الواجبة فيها، وهي النعم والنقدان والتجارة والركاز والمعادن والمعشرات وهي الحبوب والثمار فلا زكاة فيما سوى النعم السائمة. Okay, zakat of assets, zakat of wealth, zakat mal or zakat harta. Right, in Malay you say zakat harta or you say zakat mal, zakat of wealth, right, zakat of assets. There are two types of zakats, right? The first type is what we're seeing here is zakat of wealth. The other type of zakat is zakat of the body, right? They call it zakat badan, right, which is zakat fitrah, right? The one that you give after Ramadan, and the one you give before the prayer on Eidul Fitri. Right, so zakat fitrah is given anytime during Ramadan, and before Eidul Fitri, it is wajib on the one who is alive for a part of Ramadan and a part of Shawwal in the same year, in that particular year. All right. So the first one, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So zakat, the definition for zakat, and zakat lughatan wa shar'an. So zakat by definition, lughatan is nama wa tadkhir. It means increase and purification. And its legal definition, in the Sharia, it means ism lima yukhraju an malin aw badanin biniyatin makhsusa. So it is a wealth that is given out from one's wealth or one's body, on behalf of your body, according to specific characteristics or by specific intentions, right? In a specific way by specific intentions, right? And then so zakat is two types: there's zakat of wealth and zakat of the body. There's two types of zakat. Okay, as for zakat of wealth, this is what we're going to discuss today. And zakat was made compulsory in the second year of Hijrah, in the year or in the month of Sha'aban, together with the compulsion of fasting. So when fasting was made compulsory for Ramadan, zakat was also made compulsory on the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so the first type of zakat that we see here, right, is and I think I went through quite a bit last week, but it's a recap lah, right, of zakat. Right, so what we went through last week was the first one was ni'am, or na'am. The na'am is called a na'am because a lot of ni'mah from the na'am. Right, so it's called na'am, right, from the word ni'mah. Right, ni'mah meaning blessings. So a lot of blessings from these animals. The na'am, they only include camels, sheep and goats, and cattle, right, and no other animals. Right, the only animals that falls under the na'am are the ibil, right, the camel, the baqar, right, cattle, or so basically buffaloes, cows, and of the same species lah, of the same type of animals, like buffaloes and cows also count in. And then you have the ghanam, right? And the ghanam here, it is with regards to the goats and the sheep, right? And anything that would be of the same type, right, of animals. It's called the na'am. Okay, for the na'am, so with every zakat, right, we speak about nisab. I will always speak about nisab for every zakat. Let me just put in the definition of nisab and a few terminologies for us to keep in mind. Right, so right, for zakat of wealth, right? So whenever we speak about zakat of wealth, we ask a few things. The first question, okay, nisab. Is it above the nisab? Okay, and then comes the discussion, what is a nisab? Okay, and then what is the nisab? Nisab, which is the minimum amount owned, right, for zakat to be compulsory, to be wajib. Okay, right. So of course, because zakat is zakat of wealth is basically, you can see it as a tax on the rich. Right, it's somewhat like a tax on the rich. Right, so those who are poor, they don't have to give any zakat. Right, so when someone asks, how much zakat should I give, the first question you ask them is, how much wealth do you have? We don't, zakat is not on the poor. Zakat is only on the rich to be given to the poor, in fact. Right, so first and foremost, is it above nisab? And that is where our discussion will come in. Right, secondly, right, is the wealth subject to zakat? right? So, and this will bring into what kind of wealth is subject to zakat, right? So, for example, with regards to the na'am, right, with regards to the animals, right, only wealth that is only wealth that is just grazing and not doing any work, right? So only animals that are just grazing around, they're not animals for work, right? They don't plow the land, they're not used for travel, right? But they're just there, they just graze around. Okay, so animals that are not used for work, animals that just graze around and they're just there, those are the animals that are up for zakat. Right. So, but however, if an animal is being used for work, right? So, for example, camels being used for travel, right? For a caravan, right? Or cows being used to plow the land, right? These animals, they are not counted under zakat wealth. They are not, right? Because they are not stagnant wealth. The thing about zakat, let's put it make it very clear. The thing about zakat is, right? It can be seen as a tax on stagnant, excessive or stagnant excess wealth. Okay. In Islam, mashallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows us that it's not that it's wrong to be rich, right? But what it's not that, because some people are rich that other people are poor. No, the reason why there's poverty in this world is because people hoard wealth. So when the wealth is being hoarded and it's stagnant, it's not moving, that is when poverty occurs in society, because there are people who hold on to wealth and they don't share their wealth. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it that you need to share just a small amount of the wealth that you have, and this will eradicate poverty altogether. Zakat is amazing, mashallah. It's a small amount of wealth given out by the rich in society, right, to prevent them from hoarding all the wealth. There's a small amount of wealth that's made to flow, right? The flowing of wealth, right? That is what eradicates poverty, right? And mashallah, in this past few years in this COVID situation, when there is a stagnation of wealth, and we saw it worldwide, and worldwide there's a stagnation of wealth because with travel, wealth flows from country to country. It flows from richer countries to poorer countries. When it comes to tourism, when it comes to a lot of things, wealth flows. But with the stop in travel and the stop in a lot of things, right? There is that wealth is forced to stand still. And when wealth stands still, that is when people suffer and poverty becomes widespread, right? So you can see it's a tax on stagnant excess wealth, which is why when you understand the spirit of zakat, or you understand the whole the whole, you would say, concept behind zakat. What is zakat, right? You will be able to understand very quickly what wealth is zakatable, right? What is zakatable wealth, right? What wealth is subject to zakat, and what wealth is not subject to zakat. When you understand the concept or the principle that zakat is really on stagnant excess wealth. Okay, right. So if the cow is being used to plow the field, right, the cow is not stagnant excess wealth, but the cow is being used as property, right, to in work. Same with the camel, right? But if you have like a whole lot of cows just there, right, in your fields, and the cows just all they do every day is graze. That's all they do. They don't do any work whatsoever. You just have a whole lot of cows, right? You have like 100 cows, 200 cows, and they're all just there. Right? You are hoarding wealth. You're actually hoarding wealth. And so the Sharia will call for you to give out your cows to the poor, to spread that wealth that you are hoarding. Right? And when you give the cow, a live cow, and not a dead cow, a live cow, and again, you will speak about like what kind of wealth can be given out in zakat. You can't give like the worst type of wealth. You can only give one that is, and you don't have to give the best one also. Right? That mashallah, the Sharia is very fair. You give what is what's in the middle range, right? So a normal cow, right? So it can function as a normal cow, right? So a healthy normal cow is given to the poor, and now the poor can take this cow and pull themselves out of poverty. And that is what zakat aims to do eventually. And it was seen in the golden ages of Islam, right, during the caliphate of Sayyidina Umar bin Abdul Aziz, right, whereby the spread of zakat or the correct implementation of zakat through the ummah eradicated poverty everywhere in the entire Islamic empire, to the point they couldn't even find any more people to give zakat, right? Because the zakat eradicated poverty altogether, right? If zakat is performed or applied correctly, it will eradicate poverty. It will pull people out of their poverty cycle. It's ingenious, lah, mashallah, but only the creator, subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's able to tell us, only he can tell us how do you actually, eradicate poverty worldwide. The human beings have been trying their best in their own way, in their own capacity, to try and, remove or stop starvation, or remove hunger worldwide, or remove poverty worldwide. But for as long as people do not have, as long as people hoard wealth and they don't give out a small percentage of their wealth to the poor every year, as long as they don't do this, that Allah has shown us to do, it's very simple, mashallah, it's so simple to do, and it eradicates poverty, mashallah. They try to give wealth, they try to give food, they try to eradicate starvation and hunger and poverty, but it will not happen for as long as the rich are still hoarding the wealth. Right? If the rich keep hoarding the wealth, you can't eradicate poverty. And they have to give out their wealth, mashallah, in zakat. Right? So to us, is the wealth subject to zakat? All right. So for zakat of wealth, if you look at the nisab, is the wealth subject to zakat? Right. And then third one, right? Time frame. Right? Is there a howl, right, or a full year that needs to be fulfilled? Right, so not all zakat wealth requires a howl, right, or a full year for you to hold onto the wealth. Right, different wealth have different rulings. Right, so is it a howl for a full year that needs to be fulfilled, and has the full year been fulfilled? So be the main questions before you rule or you give the hukum that the wealth has to have zakat given out on it. Right. Okay. So going into the first type, of zakat, right? So the first type is na'am, which is camel, sheep, and goats, right? So it is so I'm just going to read out, right, the nisab, and I'm going to answer all these three questions. Right, for each type of wealth, I'm going to answer all these three questions, right? For the ones that are not directly that we are not directly involved with, I'll just say them out. Right? But for the ones that we are directly involved with, I will type out the answers, right? For question 1, 2, and 3 that you can see here. Okay. So the first one, right? It is Nam, right? The Nam. Okay, so you have camel, sheep, and goats. I'm just going to give the information, inshallah. Right. So the first one is camel, sheep, and goats. Right. So for camels, okay, for camels. Right, so for camels, with the first, when you have one camel, no zakat. So the nasab, right, or nisab, the nisab, the first one camel, no zakat. 2 camels, no zakat. 3 camels, no zakat. 4 camels, no zakat. 5 camels. Okay, when someone reaches the amount of 5 camels, that is the first nisab. Okay, the first nisab of 5 camels. Right, what kind of camels are subject to zakat? Camels that are not being used. Okay, the camels that are not being used, they're just grazing camels. That's all they are. Okay, they're grazing around, grazing camels. Is there a howl that needs to be fulfilled? Yes, you must have kept these 5 camels for a full year. Right, so if through the year you had 4, so someone owns 1 camel, right, and next year they own another camel, the camels reproduce, they have a 3rd camel, they reproduce 4th camel, they reproduce 5th camel. Okay, so when they have their 5th camel, right, so right now at the point of getting 5th camel, the year begins. Okay, so the year begins at the point of attaining the 5th camel. So the 5th camel, so maybe they got the 5th camel in for example in Rabiul Awal, right? So in Rabiul Awal they got we're going by the Islamic calendar, so in Rabiul Awal they got their camel, and then so 1 year after that they still have their 5 camels, right? 1 year after that Rabiul Awal, do they still have 5 camels with them? Answer is yes, they have the five camels with them. They have to pay zakat. But because camels are very expensive, you don't give one camel. Right? One camel is a lot of wealth. Right? So you actually give one shah. Right? A shah is a goat. Right? A goat or a sheep. Okay. So if someone were to say, what if I have no goats and sheep? I have no goat, I have no sheep. So what do I do? So buy a goat, right? Buy a goat or buy a sheep and give that out in zakat. Okay. So what if I have no money to buy a goat or to buy a sheep? Then sell the camel. I sell the camel. And then the money. But now but now that you have sold your camel, you're already below the nisab already lah. That's because you sold the camel. But if let's say you kept the 5 camels for a full year, zakat is on you. You sell the camel, then the money you go and buy a goat or a sheep and you give out in zakat if you had kept the camels, 5 camels for a full year, right? Just stagnant camels, not doing anything, just grazing every day. Okay, those camels. Okay, now, okay, so 5 camels is the first nisab, right? Then every 5 camels, right, you will give. So 5 camels you give a nisab, and then every 5 camels you will give a sheep, right? A sheep or a goat, a shah. Right? So 5 you give 1, 10 you give 2, 15 you give 3, 20 you give 4. Okay, when you hit 25 camels, so now the zakat is a camel. Okay, with 25 camels, the zakat is 1 camel. I should give up 1 camel. And then the ruling starts to what kind of camel, how old is the camel, female or male. It all matters, because it matters to the poor, whether you're giving them a female camel or a male camel. Female camels can give birth. Female camels have milk, right? So female camels tend to be more expensive, right? So, and the zakat will be very, 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 very clear as to how many camels you give out. And what type of camels, whether it's female, whether it's male, and whether it's 1 year or a 2-year-old camel. All this matters because it affects the ability of the camel to give birth, right? And the ability of the camel to give milk, right? So all this is all in the wealth, of it. I will not go so much into it, right, in regards to the camel. Okay, with the cows. Okay, so as I mentioned, because we're not involved in camels and cows and goats, I'm not going to go so much into it, but I'm just gonna give the information lah, the ilmu. Right, I'll share the ilmu, right? And then if at any point in your life you find yourself involved with camels, right, or you inherit a whole lot of camels, somewhere in the world, right, and then you're like, got zakat on my camels, or got zakat, and camels are very expensive, Right, 1 camel can cost in the thousands, right? So camels are very expensive, right? So if you own camels, right, it's a lot of wealth, right? If I'm not wrong, 1 camel can cost up to $5,000, $7,000, up to $10,000, 1 camel. If you want to buy a camel lah, right? Mashallah. Okay. And then you have the baqar, right? You have the cows. Okay, so the cows, very easy. The cows, mashallah, right, is you either go the cows by every 30 or by every 40. Okay, the cows very easy. Either it's every 30 or every 40. So what does it mean is that every 30 cows, right, every 30 cows, you give a 1-year-old calf. Okay, for every 30 cows that you have, right, there's a 1-year-old calf that is given. For every 40 cows that you have, there is a 2-year-old calf that is given. All right, that's all. Right, so if you have a lot of cows, you divide it by 30 or divide it by 40, right? And then you give the respective amount of calves, right? So for example, if someone has 80, right, 80 cows, so 80 cows would be 40 and 40. That means give out 2-year-old calves, right? If someone has 120 cows, so 120, they have a choice. They can divide it by 30 or they can divide it by 40, and they give out the respective number of cows. Okay. If you're not getting this, it's okay. Right? We don't handle cows. Right? But if you're getting it, then alhamdulillah. And if you're not getting it, then it's okay. Like for me personally, while it is very fun, kind of, right? It is fun to calculate zakat, and then they have all these mas'ala and issues to learn. on how many cows you give out, if you have 200 cows or 300 cows or 500 cows. But technically, the application of this knowledge, right, is not, it's fardu kifayah. It's fardu kifayah. Right, some people need to know this. Most of us don't have to know this, right? So if you're never going to handle cows, or you're never going to handle people who's going to handle cows, they don't have to know. And in fact, if you do find yourself handling cows, then just go and learn lah. Right, when if that day ever comes to you, that you have to handle cows and camels and goats and sheep, then you go and learn the zakat about it. But otherwise, it's book knowledge. It's book knowledge, right? So that you can spend your time calculating stuff if you want to calculate, right? But there is no application, right, for us here in Singapore. So I want to spend more time on where there is application, right, for us here in Singapore. So same thing with the cows. The nisab is 30. Right? So every 30, 1-year-old calf is given out, or every 40, a 2-year-old calf is given out. Right, the wealth that's served to the zakat is basically same like the camels. They cannot be cows that are used for work, right? But they are grazing cows. Is there a howl? Yes, there is a howl. So you must have had your 30 cows for more than a year. Right, they must be in your possession in grazing for more than a year. Right? A howl, a full year needs to be fulfilled before zakat is made compulsory on this wealth. Okay, after the cows, you have the ghanam, right? The ghanam are the goats and the sheep, animals, those kind of animals. So even things like alpaca, it's an alpaca. It's like a long necked sheep. I call it sheep, right? But the one they are in New Zealand. There's a lot of them in New Zealand. They're type of ghanam. They are ghanam, right? So that's why the word is ghanam, right? So ghanam is just basically just those kind of animals, right? Goat and sheep, types of animals. So you see, if you have other animals there's not that are not cows, camels, and ghanam, goats and sheep, there is no zakat on these animals unless these animals are tijara, unless they are tijara on you. So for example, if I own a whole load of chickens, if I have like 200 chickens, that just belong to me, if I don't intend these chickens for tijara, I'm not buying and selling my chickens, I just own them. That's all. I just own them. And they just run free on my garden. They run everywhere. Is there any zakat on my chickens? No, absolutely no zakat. Right? It's not zakatable wealth. Right? If I have a whole lot of rabbits, doesn't matter. If I have a lot of these animals and they're not tijara, I'm not trying to buy and sell them, I just keep them. I keep a whole lot of rabbits everywhere, rabbits. Right? No zakat unless I begin to buy and sell. Right? Then I begin to buy and sell these animals, then they become my tijara. And that is my, so it's a weird thing to do lah, to keep a whole lot of animals. But with regards to camels, cows, and goats, right? People do keep the flocks. They just keep them, right? Because of the well, because they eat, right, these animals, right? Or they drink the milk of these animals. Now, okay, for goats and sheep, right? The first nisab is 40. Okay, 40 animals. You give out one animal, like one shah. Right? So 40 goats, give out one goat. 40 sheep, give out one sheep. And then 40 until 121. Right? So 40 to 120 is still the entire time one sheep, one sheep, one sheep. It's really very, very little. Hardly anything. Right? So you have 40 goats, give out one sheep in zakat. 50 goats, one sheep in zakat. 60 goats, one sheep in zakat. 70 goats, one sheep in zakat. 80 goats, and this is like year after year after year, it fulfills the full year. Goats are not used for work. You don't use goats for work. Milking them is not counted as work, right? But you don't actually use your goats for work. They don't actually do any work. They just graze. So if you have if 100 goats, right, it's still one sheep or one goat. If you have 110, 120, it is still one goat in zakat every year. This is a lot of goats, but still one only, give out one only. And then, so why those who don't give zakat, they are bakhil. They are stingy. It's so little to give out zakat. 120, now 121. So from 121 to 200, right, goats or sheep, give out 2 goats, just 2. That's all, just 2. And then from, so 121 to 200, all right. Then from 201 to 201 to 399, right, give out 3. Then 400 to 499, give out 4. Then 500, give out 5, and thereafter every 100 you give out 1. Right, so if you have more than this, if you have more than 400, every 100 give out 1. That's all. If you have more than 400 goats and sheep, very little. Subhanallah, very little. It is basically 1/4, right? It's not 1/4, it's basically 1/40th, right? 1/40th of a no, it's not 1/40th, it's 1/400th, right? Because every no, right? It is of with every 100, yeah, you give out 1, correct? Okay, every 100 you give out 1. Okay, so that is for the goats. Okay, and so all of them have their nisab. Then you have they all cannot be working animals, right? And they have to be a full year fulfilled for them. Okay, that is done with the animals. Okay, so now going on, after the ni'am, we have the naqdan. And naqdan are gold and silver, right? And that is let me see, let me start anything about the goats. Okay. Okay, the for with regards to the animals, right? The animals that are subject to zakat, right? The ones that are subject to zakat, they are the ones that do not work and they graze on open pasture. Okay, they graze on open pasture, right? So if you feed your animals food that you buy from your own money, then those animals have no zakat on them at all. There's no zakat on them at all. Even if you have 1,000 camels, if you feed your 1,000 camels with your own plot of land that is your possession, you bought that land, or you bought food or fodder for your animals, no matter how many animals you have, there is no zakat at all on them. Right? Zakat is only on animals that graze on open pasture that belongs to nobody. Right? So they graze on pasture that belongs to nobody. Right? And why is this so? This is so because this open pasture belongs to society. Right. So when the rain falls and Allah sends rizqi and Allah sends rain, and the rain falls on this open pasture, the grass grows. Right. The grass grows, your animals are getting fat on the grass that they're eating. So you are taking from the rizqi of the land, right? And Allah gives rizqi to the land that is enough for the people in the land. But your animals take more than those who don't have animals, right? Because your animals are eating the grass of the land, right? So that your animals are growing fat on the land, on the rizqi of the people. You see that? Right? That your animals are growing fat on the rizqi of the people, of the public, of the land. Right? So you have to give back what's not yours, right? To the poor, which is just that amount that you give in zakat. That's all. Okay, but if you fed your own animals, you bought their fodder, you bought their food, you bought the land belongs to you, right? And your animals feed off of your wealth, then there is no zakat, right? Because that is your wealth. Right? So there is no zakat on that. No, mashallah. It's very very fair. Zakat is very fair, mashallah. Of course, like from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right. So animals that are subject to zakat are those that don't work and they must be grazing on open field, open pasture. That belongs to nobody. In Arabic, it's called sa'imah. Right. Sa'imah, animals that graze on open pasture. That belongs to nobody, and nobody's land, no man's land. And they're not working animals. Right? So they don't plow the fields. They're not used for travel. Right? This is the working animals. Okay. Okay. So now we go into gold and silver. So gold and silver, they are called naqadan, which means the two metals that are used for money. Right? So we use gold and silver as money. Human beings, and we use gold and silver as money. And it was said that when the gold and silver coins were first made by human beings, that Iblis saw them, and Iblis looked at them, and then placed them on his eyes, and the coolness of Iblis's eyes, the gold and the silver. And he said that after seeing this gold and the silver, there is no need for idols anymore. Right? That the gold and silver coins are present, there is no need for idols. Human beings will worship the gold and the silver, right? Instead of worshiping idols. And that is from the hadith of Rasulullah, those who are the abdul dinar wa dirham, right? The slave of a dinar, the slave of the dirham, the slaves of money. Naam. Right. So an-naqdan wa huma zahab wal fidda. Right. So they are gold and silver. And it's regardless of whether they are made into coins or not. Right. So even if you have like a slab of gold, if you like a gold bar, even you have gold or you have silver, like just silver stuff, things that are made of silver. Right. So all of these things are gold and silver. And there is the nisab. Okay, so with regards to the gold and silver, I want to type it out. Just see here. Okay, it's all here. They put everything here very, very quickly. Right, the summary, quick summary. Okay, let me just type it out here. All right. Right, the condition for zakat to become obligatory is at the passing of 1 lunar year, right, which is a condition on money and trade goods. It's not really on trade goods. I will change this. Passing of 1 year, yes. Okay, I'll put a star here just to take note of this one. Star there. Okay, when they reach the nisab, the lower limit above which zakat becomes obligatory, right? The nisab, right? So what is the nisab for gold? Right, nisab for gold is 84.7 grams of gold, right? And for silver is 592.9 grams of silver, right? So to put it into our money terms, if you go into the MUIS website, they should have it there. Right? So you can find the nisab, right, from the MUIS website. Right? So if you go, for example, zakat nisab, okay, in Singapore. Right? And the thing about it is that, just get it here. Okay, the thing about it is that let's see, which to share. Okay. What's the nisab? They have all the types of different zakat in Singapore. Right. So I thought the nisab should be here. They usually have it right in front. There. Check nisab. So then now it's 6,946 is the amount of gold. Okay, they refer to the gold. Right. So in this case, right, that your nisab value, you should, if your savings, your altogether savings there. So here you're looking at all of your valuable wealth, right? So not just the money in your bank, but money in your hands, right? And also if you have gold and silver metal, right, in your house that is kept as treasure, right? So with regards to jewelry, okay, for jewelry, if your jewelry that you're using is for decoration, you actually use it as you have it as a bangle, like you have a necklace, you have a ring, right? So all this jewelry, they're not treasure, right? It's not treasure for you, right? But you're using them as your decorative item, right? They are just decorative items. They're called zina. They're zina and decorative items. So whether or not you use them, you're not actually intending them as treasure. They're not treasure, right? You just use them. So whether or not you use them, you know that this jewelry item is just there for me to just use whenever I want to use them. Even if I don't use them, they're just they're not treasure. It's not treasure. Right? So they're not counted into your zakat. Right? So what is counted is things that you keep for treasure. Right? It's like in the past, like people used to keep like really heavy gold, jewelry, and this is actually wealth for them. They keep their wealth in the form of gold. Right? So it is treasure that they keep, and this treasure is handed down, is passed down as inheritance. Right? So it is treasure. So if let's say that the amount of gold or silver in the house, in the form of jewelry or in other forms, either it's in the house, some people they buy dinar and dirham, some people they buy, pieces of gold, right? They buy all these things and they keep it in the house. Okay, so that value needs to be added together with your savings, because that's how much gold you have altogether, because your savings is seen to be gold as well. Right? So your savings, your money is seen as gold as well. All right. So let me just go back to my slides, right? So to calculate your that's very important. This is why I mentioned that for this part, I'm going to spend some time doing this, because a lot of people don't understand this, and they end up not paying their zakat correctly, right? So because they only look at their bank account, they don't see what they actually have in their house. All right. So when I speak about the nakadan, right, money, right, money zakat, right? So it is the total right, value of all gold in my possession, right? All gold kept as treasure. In my possession, in addition to any savings, right? Savings in the house and in the bank. Okay, in all these parts. Okay, in the house or in the bank, right? In addition to all of these things. So you count all of them, right? And if this is above the nisab that we saw just now, 6,000 plus, try about 7,000, right? If it's above the nisab, and if you have kept it for a full year, it must have been kept for a full year, right? And then you pay the zakat when one full year has passed by. All right. So example. Okay, example. All right. So let's say I look now. Okay, but now I'm in Rajab. Okay, Rajab, I calculate, I see my bank account, I see maybe 2,000 in my bank account. I have some gold that I keep, as wealth. I invested in gold, I bought some gold, and I keep the gold as wealth. Okay, so this gold is my wealth. It has a value of 1,000. So right now at Rajab, I have $3,000 altogether. It is below the nisab, right? It's below the nisab. Right? So below nisab. Okay, Rajab, Shaban, right? I, maybe earn a bit more money. It became 5,000, still below. Okay, below nisab. And then Ramadan, okay, I spent a bit. It became 1,000. Okay, still below. All right, then nisab. Okay, and then Shawwal, right? Spend more, got 500. Still below nisab, way below nisab. Okay, maybe Shawwal, Zulqa'dah, right? Zulqa'dah. Right. Now maybe at this point I got a bonus. Okay, for my work I got a bonus, maybe up till 5,000 again. Okay, but still below this up. Okay, and then Zulhijjah, maybe got inheritance. Okay, got inheritance wealth. Something happened. Got inheritance. It became now my wealth in my possession became 8,000. Okay, above the nisab already. Okay, so here I'm going to take note. Zulhijjah, my wealth became above nisab. I must take note. Okay, so now I'm going to monitor my wealth. Does my wealth stay above the nisab for a full year? That means from this Zulhijjah to the following Zulhijjah, was there any dip below the nisab? All right. So Zulhijjah, Muharram, right? Maybe Muharram, it was 7,500. I spent some money. It's still above the nisab. Okay, Muharram, Safar. suffer, and maybe earn some more, got earn some more money, became 8,005 again, above the nisab. Safar Rabiul Awal. Okay, we went up even more. Again, Rabiul. So you must keep track of your wealth. The moment you see go above the nisab, you need to keep track. Okay, so 9,500, for example, right? It's above the nisab again, right? And then Jumadul Ula. Okay, so maybe Jumadul Ula, right? Maybe I went on a trip and I spent some money. Okay, and it became 7,000. It's still above the nisab. Still above, because it was 6,000 something, and I saw the nisab. Okay, Jumada Saniya, right? It became 6,000. Okay, when I spent a bit more money, it became 6,000. Now it is below the nisab. Okay, so which means I did not finish a haul. The haul didn't finish, right? So which means no zakat. The whole thing reset. So no zakat. I didn't finish a full year, right? So reset, right? So if I find my wealth go up again above nisab, I restart my year. Okay, I restart my year. Okay, just if any point in the year it goes below nisab. Okay, if it was maintained above nisab the entire time, so maybe it didn't go below, right? It remained above the nisab, right? The entire time. Right? So 8,000 Rosania, Rajab, right? It was 8500. Have fun. 8500, still above nisab. I'm doing this because I want people to understand, so you don't confuse things. Rajab, Shaban, right? It became 9,000 maybe, right? Above nisab also, right? Ramadan, okay, maybe it became 10,000. You're saving 1,000 a month, for example, right? Still above the nisab. Shawwal, Ramadan, and then Shawwal. Okay, here you spend a bit, but you spend maybe just a bit. So it's still above the nisab. And then Zulqa'dah, right? You have 7,500. Again, it's still above the nisab. They're all still above nisab. Okay. Then you came down to now Zulhijjah. So a full year has passed, right? And you reach Zulhijjah and your savings is 7,500. Okay. What is your zakat? Your zakat, you will have to look through your bank account records, including the money that, not just your bank account records, but basically all of your wealth. So the money in your house, right? So all this amount, right? I'm assuming that you calculated all the wealth together, right, in the house. So the wealth in the house, the wealth in your bank, calculated everything all together, right? You found that, okay, Jumadat Ula was the lowest that it became. And that was the lowest that it became. Which means that for a full year, the lowest amount that you maintained was 7,000, right? Because the entire year, it never went below 7,000. I never dipped below 7,000, right? So the minimum was 7,000. So therefore, what is the zakat? Right, zakat, right, will be, right, 2.5% of 7,000. Okay, that is your zakat. Right, but basically, if you go to the website, it will help you out anyway. Right, so but it's just if you want to do it manually, lah. Right, so if you go to the website, they will actually record for you your zakat. If you are there, yeah, so there they have the money nisab tracker. You can track it. You can download how to track your nisab from the MUIS website. And I think, and if let's say there were years before they did not pay zakat, you have to qada zakat. You owe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the zakat, right? So so that's why you have up to 1970 nisab values, right? Because if let's say, and I had a student before, a few students in fact, they didn't realize that they have to actually pay zakat harta. They always assume that it was zakat zakat fitrah that they pay at the end of Ramadan, which their father pays for them. So when they learned in class that they have to actually pay zakat harta, and it's on everybody. Zakat is no, there is no condition of baligh for zakat. There is no condition of baligh. There is no condition of aqil. Don't have to have a sound mind, nor have nor reach puberty. Right? Zakat is on every human, every Muslim must pay zakat. So even a child, yes, a child, but the one who is in charge is the one who pays the zakat on a child's behalf. Even someone who's autistic, for example. So the prayer is not compulsory on this person. The fasting is not compulsory because they cannot reason. They're not mumayyiz. But is the zakat compulsory? Yes, zakat compulsory. How can they have so much wealth? Possible if they had inheritance. Right? So if they had inheritance, there's a lot of wealth in their hands. A lot of small children have, if they were, there are not a lot, but there are orphans that are rich. They're rich orphans, right? Because their parents left behind a lot of money, right, for them. So now, if the wealth is stagnant like that, then there is zakat that is on this wealth. Right? They have to pay zakat. Okay. Now there is one on the sub value. Okay, so I hope it is clear how to calculate. Right, this is why on the MUIS website they actually have an entire document that you can use to monitor your zakat. Okay, if someone were to say, what if one of the people who can receive zakat are people who are in debt? And then again, there's entire hukum about that, and a lot of shurut, a lot of conditions about those who are in debt, DEBT, debt. So someone might say, I have a lot of utang, I have a lot of debt. Why should I pay zakat if I have a lot of debt? I have housing loan, I have car loan, I have student loan, I have all kinds of loan, right? But my savings goes up to 10K, 10,000, 12,000. But I'm someone who has utang. I have debt. Why should I pay zakat if I have debt? The answer is, if you kept the amount for a full year in your possession, right? And you fulfill all the conditions of zakat, of course zakat is on you, right? And then if you say, but I have debt, then the response will be, why didn't you use your savings to clear your debt? And you should have done that in the first place. So before the year came to an end, like for example, this person, right? I mean, this person who was this scenario, right? Before the year came to an end, right? You should have just cleared your debt, right? So for example, when you have 7,500 in your bank, right? So before the year comes to an end, in Zulhijjah, right? Go and pay lump sum, maybe 7,000 to the bank and clear your debt. So you clear your debt 7,000, you have 500. Right? So there's no zakat on you because there is no full year. You're not cheating zakat, no, because zakat is meant to be on the rich who have stagnant wealth. If you have utang, if you have debt, you're not rich. You actually have debt, right? So pay lump sum. Just pay lump sum. And there's a lot of barakah in doing that, because then you have there is no debts on you. And Rasulullah would really urge the Sahaba to clear their utang, like clear their debts as fast as they can, right? Because then you will see a lot more barakah in your wealth. Then once you can clear your utang or your debts as soon as you can, as soon as possible. But mashallah, it is on everyone's priority lah. Like what is their priority in their own handling of their finances. But the thing about debt, about utang, is that it removes barakah. It does remove barakah, right? Because it sucks up all your money. And if you know about how riba works, right? If you have housing riba, you could very well be paying. If, like for example, that day I was seeing one of my students' housing loan, right? They pay about 1,200 a month to the bank. 800 is riba, right? 800 of 1,002, 800 is riba, is the interest, and only 400 actually goes to the loan, right? To reduce the loan. Right? This is if let's say you follow the bank and you agree with them and you only pay with regards to the minimum amount every month, you actually end up paying a lot towards riba. Right? This is what it does. It's a lot. It sucks your wealth. I myself personally, once I finish paying off all of my debts, I see so much barakah in wealth. right? That you just, finish off your wealth as fast as possible. Zakat makes you do that. If it makes you do that, because you see, if you keep the money, you have to pay zakat. You might as well pay off your utang, right? You might as well pay off your debts, right? So those people who say, "Oh, I have housing loan, therefore I don't pay zakat," even though they fulfill the shurut, that is wrong, right? If you fulfill the conditions, you must pay zakat, right? But if you say you have housing loan, then pay off your loan. Go and pay off your loan before the year comes to an end. Pay off your loan, right? And then you have you don't fulfill the shurut. You don't fulfill the conditions, right, of zakat. No, mashallah. Right. So it's just to be careful about this, eh? Okay. Let me just see if I missed out anything. Then we end our class. Okay. Uh okay. All right. So the conditions of zakat on wealth is that it must reach the nisab, okay, and then it must be with you for a full year. The wealth, the wealth above nisab must be with you for a full year, right? It cannot be decorative items, right, that are permissible. Permissible decorative items like jewelry that a woman wears, right? So however, jewelry on men that is haram, that is under zakat, because it's not supposed to be there in the first place. Men not supposed to wear jewelry in the first place. And then you're supposed to give out 2.5%. Okay. Any questions on that? Are there any questions? Okay, so if there are no questions, next week I want to go into tijara, trade goods. Right? Many people don't actually realize, especially if you're doing a lot of home businesses, right? Be very, very aware on your zakat on your trade goods. So like for me myself personally, I print books to sell. So if I keep these books in my possession year after year, right? If my books are above the nisab in its value, right? So not in the cost price, but selling price of my books, I have to pay zakat. Year after year lah, must be zakat, right? If I don't sell off my books, I have to go and sell off my books, right? For me to not pay zakat. Okay, so inshallah, next week we'll continue from there. Sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Walhamdulillahi